Welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, the Fit and Fab channel. I mean, the BizWar channel. I mean, we're gonna go all over the place because my guest is gonna take us in a journey of health, fitness, as well as business, and really, it sounds exactly that in that particular order because he is a doctor in physical therapy, and so we're gonna talk about that. He is also an entrepreneur, and we're going to talk about that. And he's teaching people how to do certain things and become better at their business without being overwhelmed and overburdened, which is a very common thing that happens today to a lot of us. He's also got a story of his own health that got him into all this process. So, and then of course he has a fitness therapy concept that we're going to talk about. So all of it is for grabs today. He's also a best-selling author. He has a book that he's put out there, and it's a pretty cool one that we're going to talk about as well. So we're going to have a full comprehensive discussion today that's going to take us, probably we even touch on nutrition. I don't know. And then maybe we'll go to nutritious channel there. So whatever it takes, we're going to go for the hour here. So Dr. Lance Knaub, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hurricane. So honored to be here. Can't wait to dive into all of it.
Well, listen, it's a long journey for you in terms of all the things that you've gone through and the achievements that you have done, and also the things that you're doing currently to help others. So I want to break it down. And by the way, I didn't mention this. He also has his own TV show that he's doing. So that's another one. So quite a bit of achievement from the one end to the other. Very full, and I love it. So let's go back to the story. I mean, you started your world as a physical therapist,
Yes.
and so let's go from there. First of all, why? I mean, why physical therapy and not other things? And because there's always some reason behind why people go to physical therapy, whether they get injured when they were younger or whatever. And then I know you've dealt with some health issues, right? If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. And so,
Yes.
from getting burnout and overwhelmed from work and things. So we'll talk about all that, and then how you got into starting your concept of fitness and therapy together, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So yeah, as far as how I got into physical therapy, I stumbled upon it. And in high school, I was lucky enough to go to York Catholic High School in York, Pennsylvania. And the teachers were great, and my classmates were great. We probably didn't have world-class guidance counselors. I don't remember receiving a lot of direction. It was probably on me and probably my fault, but I knew I loved to help people. I knew I loved health, and I decided pharmacy sounded good. So I, applied to pharmacy schools, and I had a big ego. I actually got accepted to every pharmacy school I applied to, and therefore I didn't really, take things seriously. And combined with the fact I remembered that I didn't love chemistry. I didn't actually like chemistry. So it didn't go so well when I was 17 years old in New Brunswick, New Jersey at Rutgers. And I was maybe undeclared, and then, bio, like pre-med and exercise science. And fortunately, someone mentioned they had volunteered at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital in physical therapy. I had no idea what that was. I was lucky enough not to have any injuries, which is a very common scenario. And I volunteered, and I was like, wow, this is it. This is amazing. So then I became more focused, really, put my heart and soul into, studying, and had a clear path that I was, focused on. And when I graduated from physical therapy school, it didn't take me long to, I didn't really think I had an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I was very clinical focused. So I did a transitional doctorate, again, in your neck of the woods. I stayed with Rutgers UMDNJ in Newark, evenings and weekends. I got board certified, and I just really wanted to master my craft. But then an entrepreneurial itch started to rise up, and I started to feel like things could be better. And this is, perfect for your audience. I really wanted to combine physical therapy and fitness, which hasn't been perfected. Even to this day, it's still really not. And I look at it, my wife and I look at it as a continuum, and we want people to move along the continuum from injured and broken to healthy and fit. And we look at, fitness as like a dotted line on that continuum. So when people enter us, whether they're coming from the fitness side within our own, facility or outside, they're going to get exposed to doctors of physical therapy. And for people that come through physical therapy, we want to immediately, if they have an upper body problem, there's no reason they can't be doing lower body and cardio, or the reverse. which is just totally, unfortunately, unusual and just not done. And especially for athletes, right? Athletes don't need to get so deconditioned and they can hit the ground running and get back faster. So we rented a 300 square foot space from a little boutique fitness center in 2004. We got married in May, started in June. Definitely not for the faint of heart to really, go into business with your new partner in life. But for us, it made our relationship stronger and we did well and we powered through it. And yeah, luckily I had good mentors and they kept me from going off the cliff. And I studied partnership and I really leveraged partnership and we added a second office, a third office, and we grew to 5 locations. And in 2018, one of our partners took over our 5 location business. They ran the business, which, in today's world, Benjamin Hardy, who's I'm a big fan of, calls that a self-managing company. And I didn't really know that term. That's when I kind of tried to figure out what I was going to do. And I spread my wings. And after some time, I realized I wanted to help other entrepreneurs and pay it forward. And I started doing some coaching. And the real deep message that I like to share is actually going back to 2011. We had 3 offices, 30 employees, and we just had our third child. So we had 3 children under the age of 4. And I was working 80 plus hours a week, abusing my body, not sleeping enough, not exercising enough, even though I'm literally within a physical therapy and fitness center. And my body had enough stress and it finally stopped working. And my digestive system, my GI system shut down. And for anyone who's ever had, GI problems, you're stopped in your tracks. So I had to rule out cancer, celiac, Crohn's, undergo endoscopies, and I couldn't eat. I couldn't get nutrition. I was either in the bathroom or running to the bathroom. It was pretty awful. But sometimes entrepreneurs need, right, a wake up call. And so I turned that rock bottom moment into, the message that I want to share. Fortunately, it was temporary. It wasn't any permanent problem, and I was able to get myself back on track. And then I actually did try to put my process into the book that you mentioned, Hurricane, the 4% Breakthrough, and really just step by step share how to stay healthy while you're scaling a business. And so you can create a healthy lifestyle and also a healthy business that's actually, you'll get paid for the roles you have. You have double-digit profitability beyond that, and you have an asset that you could decide to keep or sell. Because I'll even tell you more, like I guess a final chapter beyond that book, and even where I went to is we got approached by a private equity backed company in 2021, and we weren't looking to sell. We had powered through the pandemic, but we did partner with them, and I that was my first 8-figure company that I coached. I began coaching the parent company. So anyway, that's kind of like a little final chapter we can dive into if that helps anyone to really understand how they can create a valuable asset and sell it. Or, my next book is going to be sharing the partnership, all the partnership lessons that I learned, because I feel like staying independent and leveraging partnership is an underutilized strategy. And it can be beautiful. I lived it for many years, and that was our original vision. So I'm excited to talk about that as well.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, dude. There's so much there. We could spend a few
Yeah,
hours easily. But so I want to go to some
yeah,
basics because sometimes my shows are a little different because whatever the topic is, that's the core. But there's so many like derivatives that are coming out of that
yeah,
discussion that I think sometimes just to share with our audiences, and there's a lot of worldwide, local and national, international, but there's also a lot of you. I try to hopefully give information to people that are mid age, and all ages actually, but also the youth, because I think we all been through that age where you don't know what you want to do,
yeah,
and you make some mistakes along the way. And of course, I don't call them failures. I call them lessons learned, or
definitely.
learning experiences type of thing. But the fact is, they happen. And sometimes hearing stuff like from guests and experts such as yourself, it's always good to highlight some of things. And one of the things that you stated, that's powerful. You were good at what you did when you were young, and you went, All right, so let's go to pharmacy. I got this, and you were so good that you were accepted in a lot of places. Many people will envy that, right? They're lucky to get one or two places, but and that give you that little, I got this. But at the same time, that wasn't you. You see,
Yeah.
and that's a message I want to send to our audiences. So whoever you are at that age, and by the way, my kids are just about going to college. So this is for that generation that is transiting to college today, next year, or in the coming years. But the fact of the matter is, it is something that we all have in common. I think everybody watching, listening, if you go back to your roots, just as you finish high school, there is not a lot of consistency with the decision making at that time. A lot
Right.
of times we take it from what our parents want.
Yeah.
A lot of times we take it just like I'm just going to wing it and see what's up and see what sticks, and then we wind up in these jobs or career paths that may not be what we want. And a lot of people actually studies really show that many people graduate in one major and never do anything with it. I mean,
Yeah.
we can talk about a lot of types of folks that get a degree and they do something completely different because it just didn't fulfill them. So again,
Yeah.
folks, as a message, from our dear guest today, listen, find what drives you and motivates you to do stuff, and you stumble into, like you said, physical therapy, but it fulfilled you. You felt
It
it.
did.
You
Yeah.
know, it was different. This is you, and you made the transition, and that's actually a beauty that we have. At least in the states, we have that ability to change and shift credits and move here and there, and not in some other parts of the world it may be difficult to do these things. But we have that advantage where you can literally start one way, remove some stuff, get new credits, and adjust things, and you can still continue your path without so much damage financially. you know, but in other parts of the world, you can do it, and you can just kind of finish one program and get another program. But I mean, I just wanted to touch that because I think that
Yeah.
was something that you hit on right on in as you started the conversation. The other one is an interesting one because you said that you and your wife, well, newly wife at the
Yeah.
time, started a business with. That's a big one. A lot of people may not see themselves working hand in hand with their companions or significant others, and because mixing business with pleasure kind of thing, it's a little tough.
Yeah.
Because now it's that same partner that you can have at home, you're going to have in the business. Many may frown upon that, but it does work sometimes if you're good with each other and you have similar liking and similar tendencies and aspiration and all that stuff. I mean, my wife and I, we work together too, so I
Okay,
can tell.
great.
Yeah, so it's we yin and yang it. We kind of
Yeah.
compliments. I compliment. We support each other, but it is not easy as people think.
No.
You got there's a lot of dynamics in there,
Yeah, for
and it
sure.
is, and especially when you're new and starting a new business, folks. That's the thing, and we probably going to touch more on this. It's not easy either. I mean, there's so many variables, and there's always a chance that you're taking a business. Many people don't make it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that not only you made it, you've expanded it, and you've even had it self managed, and you had all these other successes with it. But not everyone can claim to do the same. But here's the thing: doesn't matter. You don't make it in the first business, you start another one. If that,
Absolutely.
again, as you said, that entrepreneurship is always available to us,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's the way we feel. I mean, there's two ways to do this, right? You can make money working for someone, or you can make money working with someone. you know, it's and by the way, it's just there's a play on words here because we also work with someone, we work for
For
someone, right?
sure.
You know, it,
Absolutely.
it's just the angle that you see. So you try
Yeah.
to partner. Either you're partnering up with a company or you're partnering up with employees. But at the end of the day,
Hmm.
if you look at it from that, you probably do better than if you look at it like I'm an employee or I'm just a boss. Totally change mindset. Verbiage here, but it's something that you've done successfully. Now you said you had kids. Now kids also demand a lot of time. And by the way, I have three kids, so I know that feeling as
Okay.
well. But you had them back to back, so
Yeah.
that's pretty rough. My two are like literally Irish twins, so they back to back, and the older one is much older. But
Okay.
but the fact of the matter is, it is a difficult task, when you have to match the business,
Yeah.
the family, all the stuff, and sometimes, and then you probably you stated it well, is that you got overwhelmed, you very
Yeah.
much, got hurt in the process. That's a mistake we do either in the corporate world when we're trying to build a career path and just impress everybody because we want to go to the next level, and
Yep.
or sometimes when you own a business, it's not, that's a mistake people make. It's not a 9 to 5 job. When you own a business, it's 24/7, you know anything that can go wrong will go wrong as the laws will dictate, right?
Yeah.
So you're on, and sometimes you deprive yourself from the energy, from the things that you need to have to continue being performing in optimum levels, and you experience it. So let's start now. I'm gonna stop because I was
Mm.
just kind of pinpointing a few things, but
Yeah.
that in itself, you said it hit your GI system, which that's one of the areas that gets affected by stress.
Yeah.
And now how did you get out of it? I mean, it's not an easy process.
Yeah. Oh, so much good stuff here. So, and I'll circle back to some of the other questions you mentioned. But as I mentioned, I really tried to organize how I did get out of it, and fortunately, eventually had success, and it was all lessons learned. And really, I organized it into three steps. Really doing some introspective work, number one, and doing some thought exercise and deciding what was most important for me. A lot of people call that your personal mission, your why, your cause. And then just some other thought exercises which are all part of that first section in the 4% breakthrough. And then secondly, business fundamentals. And in sports and life, I feel like it usually comes down to the fundamentals, the basics. I was talking to a real estate broker today in Manhattan, and the real estate market is not good right now with high interest rates, and it's second worst market to 2008 for his industry. And his words were, "It's back to the basics." So for me, what I have people work on is an organizational structure, just like a chessboard, knowing who does what, and then having position descriptions very clearly matched with that. And then having your processes or systems, which, many of you know Michael Gerber from the E-Myth, or if you know Marcus Lemonis from the Prophet, you really, everybody in McDonald's, right? We need to be very clearly defined on how we do everything, and then having some strategy, having a plan in place, and lastly, a skills gap assessment. And then the third section is lifestyle, mental health. And again, I did try to put this in order, although they all interplay. It doesn't really matter which one you break in with because there'll be positive synergy. But the order I approached it with was mental health, nutrition, sleep, exercise, and then posture and ergonomics. And I would also add a little bit of play and humor to the process as well, because that's so researched and important to everybody.
Oh, well, so here's the thing. I mean, you are a doctor after all. I mean, you spend enough time, to learn a few things that can help you in the tricks. Not everybody has that advantage, but nevertheless, you set it up and I think you've defined it for everyone watching and listening right now. And these are all the areas that we all, it doesn't matter what we do, we should all have those in balance. Because I think that's exactly what you said. You need to have your mental health. You need to have the
Yeah.
right nutrition. You need to have the right
Yeah.
social level. You need to organize your life differently. If you work for someone or work for yourself, you need to tell who's going to do what. Because one thing that happens when you own a business, you want to be in everything, and you want to be all over the place,
Right.
and you want to make all the decisions, and you need all the job descriptions, and that you
Yeah.
not and I get that concept, but that's when you burn out. That's when you get
Yeah.
overwhelmed, and that's
Yeah.
when you crash. That's the thing. Some people crash and don't come back. So it is important that you never want to crash. And I love what you did with all this. You took it into a lesson learned, put it in a book, but in a concept that you share with other people now, to help them never go back, to that situation that you went. But I love the balance that you stayed in, and the key that you went to, like, what is the job description for each employee or for each partner that we're going to have, and what they're going to be doing, because that will take the pressure away. Every one of those folks
Yeah.
is going to take a piece, and it makes it as a team. And that's the thing of beauty about having a team and working as a team, is that you don't have to do it all by yourself.
Sure.
You work and you split the task, and everybody, complements everyone, and the results are always going to be there. Now you can do it by yourself, but then you are doing 5 times or 6 times the amount of energy that you need to spend on the thing, and that's not something that you can spare. Because I mean, we are limited in our energy, and time as well. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Sleep. You mentioned sleep. That's a big one. Nutrition. It is often known, and we see this now. I always give reference to the movies, but it's really based on reality. I mean, how many of us, you're going to work, you grab, snacks, you eat junk food, you're not eating properly. You wait until the end of the night to eat because you're hungry because you couldn't get in your opportunity. Many of us in the corporate world, for example, or in business, They go the whole day without having food. They just keep, going, going, going. Oh, I'll eat
Yeah.
later. Now your body is eventually gonna be good. Now again, depends on the age, depends on various dynamics. You may not feel it right away, but
Right.
when your body's gonna say enough, it's it's crash, it's over, and that's actually where it's a very difficult. Sometimes it's hard to come back.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, you've managed this. Now, how long did it take you to actually go through the process and kind of reestablish?
Yeah. I even going through this, I was not as smart as I should have been. And I can remember even in the first 14 days, I can remember having a breakfast with a physician, a marketing business meeting, and I was eating bread, applesauce, or bananas, applesauce toast, what they call the brat diet, which again, I didn't have the perfect answer from the medical world, but luckily a mentor and friend of mine suggested I try that, and I did, and that made things more reasonable with my digestive system so that I could sit in one place. So I was literally out of breakfast having, toast and applesauce and trying to act like nothing was wrong. But it took me weeks and months to really get back. And I thought that was a priority, but many things it did force me to stop many things and pause, which was good because just as you're saying, we make so many sacrifices as entrepreneurs, whether it be our health, our family, our relationships, and things like sleep. That's usually the first thing to go. I really recognize that pattern. And, sleep is just such a foundation for our health. You just can't skip it for so long. And, to touch on, crashing, for everyone listening, pay attention to any warning signs. If you're starting to feel like you're in a fog or, you're starting just to wake up at 3 a.m., um, you're losing weight, your body composition's changing, you're irritable, you're suffering your relationships with your partner. Like those, pay attention to some of those warning signs and take some positive, proactive action. Don't let it get too far.
Well, thank you. And I think that is an important piece as a message for all audiences because, as you said, pause. It's okay. That's the thing. Like we think that if I pause, everything that I've been working on is gonna crumble. Here's what's gonna
Yeah,
crumble. If you don't come back, you're not gonna be there to worry about it because
for
your health is
sure.
gonna leave you, and that's it. I mean,
Yeah,
even if you're alive and stuff, and if you're not fully functional, you're not gonna be able to do anything. So there
yeah,
you go. Your health is your wealth. But if you take care of yourself, again, that analogy of the mask on the plane, you got to have that mask
yeah,
on, and you have to be fully functional to be able to operate. Well, same thing here, and that's a very common thing that we all listen. I'm guilty at it, and everyone that's watching, listening. If you were in any given moment in life focusing on a path of success, whether an entrepreneur or a career path in a corporate, you will still do the same. Because even in the corporate, like you wake up early, you're in the office first thing, you
yeah,
leave the last one, you're working 6, 7 days a week, bringing work home, you hardly taking care of stuff, you're eating outside, so high sodium, high sugar, all the bad stuff, not hydrated enough, and you're not sleeping. So all those are bad things for you, and your body is just gonna keep. But you're right, there are certain signs that happen and you know, folks, if you're watching or listening right now, you know these signs. You're experiencing them right now. Then it's time for you to make a real pause, as you said. Just strike that pause there, press the button, and hold, and start evaluating things or reevaluating things. What am I doing? What can I do? What can I delegate? What can I
yeah,
change? And again, I'm just reiterating some of the stuff that Dr. Knaub is mentioned. But really, it is not a difficult process, but you have to be aware. Sometimes you're aware too late,
right.
and that's the other thing. We don't want to go there because, again, you may be lucky. It may be weeks, months, maybe years sometimes to go back. And yours, a business is not going to, stay consistent if you're not there, especially if you didn't structure it correctly. It can just crumble. And now you're no health, no business. So both losses, not a good thing, right? So you want to make sure that it's all in balance. And this takes us to one of the topics you've addressed is that the
Yeah,
burnout and overwhelming. So what do you tell people? I mean, in general, like, I think you've covered some of it, but like, what would you
yeah.
tell people more in advance in the work you do to help people and especially entrepreneurs, to change their lifestyle, to change their process? What are some of the advices you will give them?
Yeah. I think what I would suggest in a nutshell is, again, that people really find some open space and open time and get away from the day-to-day chaos and stress and figure out what's most important to them. And then I have them do an exercise and create what I call a success schedule. So they really have to map out an ideal week. And it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Nobody is, but we aim for 80%. And on this success schedule, people are going to declare what they're committing to: their sleep, their exercise, their time for family, their time for their children, preparing meals, not eating standing up, not eating on the run, just when you're going to go to bed, when you're going to get up, all those non-negotiables, all that important stuff, including working on the business, right? You don't have to like get into detail, but for everyone listening, it's very easy for us to just work as a physical therapist or as a carpenter, electrician, an attorney, a doctor. And, you know, as Hurricane mentioned, if, we're not going to wear some of those other hats, the CEO, the marketing manager, director of operations, however you slice your organization, your business will fail if you're only going to do the quote technician work. So that's what I would really, in a nutshell, and really, like, a lot of expert opinion when you decide what's important to you. A lot of times it is your own health, like oxygen mask, or it may be your family. um, you can look at it all different ways, and it's completely up to you. It may be your spirituality, but know what's most important and then make it a priority. And a lot of people have said this: if you look back on your week and how you've really spent your time, that's what you're prioritizing. So if you never spend any time with your kids or your partner, or your health. And I can think of a CEO of an eight-figure company that I coached who was a triathlete and very active, and he carried his gym bag with him. And when we started working together, he only worked out on weekends. He didn't have a plan at all. It wasn't magically going to happen that time was going to appear in his schedule to get some exercise during the week. So it just never happened. He got exercise on the weekends and just couldn't break that cycle until we started working together. So, being strategic for a period of time, I think will reap a lot of benefits.
Well, thank you for sharing that because I mean that's a great example. I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. Someone who's running the show is probably gonna. I'm focused on this. I'll do the my health on the weekend, but
Yeah.
it's kind of do some effect, but it's not if you actually break it down. I mean, you do need some downtime during the day. You need. I mean, a lot of companies now are trying to put some of these programs in the workplace, and even some facilities. Companies have facilities within the company where people can work out, or take meditation or whatever.
Yeah.
Some companies even pay for your gym membership so you can go during whatever lunch hour or whatever to do some workout.
Yeah.
And so it is happening, but it's not as well, I guess, spread across all the different people out there in the
For
companies.
sure.
But it's definitely, love what you said, like how you break up the week. And because I mean, one of the things that we all hear, one thing that we hear all the time as an excuse, and the number one is no time.
Right.
Right? Everybody says I don't have no time, but everybody somehow manages to find the time to do certain things that are not relevant. Watching TV, we watch TV, right?
Yep.
So it's a problem, right? Now, but you can do it. We just have to. And by the way, there's a lot of specialty out there to help us. I mean, doctor, you are doing work right now to help people, and you're working with people to guide. So if someone really needs the assistance, hey, reach out to Doctor Knaub right now and see what we can do to change things. But the idea is that it can be done. It has been done, and people that know how to kind of go over this and really break it down to a science and to a week schedule that is very determined and cut dry, and it's non-negotiable. As you said, these are
Yeah.
things that I got to do: morning, midday, afternoon. I need to have my 8 hours sleeps, whatever.
Right.
Those are things. I mean, and by the way, the science is available. We need to know what we need from nutrition. We need to know what we need for our health, relaxation, workout, exercise. Everybody that is in the fitness and health will tell you movement, exercise, workout, detoxification. These are the key ones. And by the way, you stated all of them, but really it's something that can be done. And it's never too late, folks. That's the good news. No matter what stage you are in
Yeah.
today, no matter where you are, how, you know, early on or you're way advanced and you're literally caught in the actual rip current, in life, you can still get back, and still fix this problem. It's not the end. You can have a new fresh start every day, any day. So that's another one. Now, doctor, you mentioned something interesting about the combination of physical therapy and fitness.
Yes.
So I mean, I broke down a few items of that first piece of the discussion. So I wanted to go back to that one because it was interesting how you stated that, people can come in to get fixed, but then they forget about the other piece and vice versa.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how does that work? I mean, someone is an athlete, they get hurt, right? Now you don't want them just to focus on whatever, muscle or body part that they hurt. You want to make sure that everything else remains functional. Is that the
Yes.
the idea?
Yeah. So let's just, use an example and imagine an athlete tears their ACL, one of their knee ligaments that's super common. And if they came in, there's no good reason that they couldn't do some upper body, even preoperatively, before surgery, after surgery. They could be doing an arm bicycle to actually keep their upper body strong and get some cardiovascular. They can definitely be doing some safe upper body resistance training. But it's not the standard, unfortunately, and it's not normally done. And the reverse, if an athlete tore their labrum and the deep cartilage in their shoulder, throwing athletes, most people would just have them do physical therapy for their upper body and their lower body would be ignored. And then your cardiovascular, after 72 hours, all the benefits reverse. So you are extremely deconditioned and it's just not necessary for that other part of the rest of the body to really hit rock bottom and and baseline. So and you can, if you like a facility like ours where we actually have personal trainers and physical therapists collaborating, people can start to, on their off days as they move along this continuum, they could start to work with professional fitness people, the trainers that are going to help them keep their eye hand coordination and just start to incorporate athletic movements and all the kind of quote fitness side of the equation. So people are going to get back further. And really, frankly, our goal was always to get people better than they were before, which was a hell of a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, thank you for that because, I think anyone watching and listening, I mean, I think everyone out there at any given point, they do some activity and you can get hurt no matter where. And especially if you're an athletic or, into fitness and all this stuff, there's a very high chance that something's going to get hurt eventually because we're human and, your body's going to take a toll. Eventually something's going to, scream help. All right. But it's a great point that when we try to fix a problem, we just fix that problem. But
Right.
sometimes we ignore the rest of the body because we only
Yeah.
focus like we just want to make sure your arm is back, right? While we're doing this, it may take weeks, and we are almost ignoring the rest of the body. So now your other part of the body is not physically fit. So now you got this one fit, but now you got to get back in shape. That may take more time. So what I'm getting is that your concept, it's a very, and by the way, it's very soundproof. I mean, it sounds great and it sounds like very basic, but as you said, that's not common. And really what it is that you work every single part of your body, even that you can work with, while you're fixing the problem that you have, whether upper or
Yeah.
lower. And that is a great concept. Now, you started with one location doing the work you do, then you
Yes.
multiplied it, and you mentioned three at a certain point, and then you went
Yep.
to five.
Yes.
So how was that expansion? I mean, how difficult was it? I mean, because from a business perspective, I mean, it sounds very, listen, for everybody that is really thinking about working in as an entrepreneur for themselves, starting is a difficult task. But once you start, now you want to expand, scale up. Now, how easy is that? How was it? And obviously, it's not easy. I'm sure there's a journey there. There's different things that happen. But once you get to a certain point, what is that critical point where you're like, that's it, I'm good. Now I can do as many as I want. It's all the same.
Yeah. Such good questions. I can remember a second office and, I definitely, as you mentioned earlier, still probably wanted a little too much control. And my wife, Jody, and I, we went and started that new office and let our current team hold down our existing, fort. And once we got a little momentum, though, we did bring, Dr. Kevin Schnitzer over and he did a fantastic job just continuing to grow it. But we were probably a little too people dependent, a little lucky at the time. We weren't enough process dependent as well. But we had talented people and we overcame that. And it was so that second location was very hard because you can't be in two places at once. That's really going to give you some lessons. And then when you go for three, for the people that are in brick and mortar locations, that's a whole new challenge. But once you really get your infrastructure, then from three, you can really scale, because then we immediately went from five to six when we partnered with a bigger company. And then we acquired another five location company. We went straight to actually 12 because they started a new office, and we did as well. So it was interesting to really see, because five-ish was testing our limits. We were just getting better, but then to pretty quickly go to 12. And at this point, I was more on the coaching side, which is fun. So I had plenty of resources to see all that happen in late 2021 and 2022.
Well, that's a great picture for our audiences. For
Yeah,
anyone, I mean, again, listen, ambition is a big deal, and we would like people to be as ambitious as they can be, because that's a great thing. And yes, if you have the drive to start a business in a niche that you actually are good at, because I mean that's the other thing. I mean, sometimes we start businesses we're not too expert at, and then we might not make them happen. But that's okay, folks. Sometimes even if you get in the wrong type of business, you will learn a few things, and then you can apply them in whatever correct environment that you prefer, and you actually can excel in. But in your case, you went from one to two. It was difficult, as you said. You can't clone yourself, so you have to actually be doing a lot of things. But one of the things that I think you've covered a couple of times is the idea of having other people run things. You basically train the trainer, right? These
totally.
folks are coachable. You
Yeah,
get them the task, you give them defined, and that's actually a big one in business. For
yeah,
me, a business leadership, I do this all the time, and I sometimes get upset when it's not happening. Like, I hear this all the time. Well, I was told to do this, but I wasn't sure how to do it. But you know what? If you want your people to do a good job, then you define things, your dailies, your weeklies, whatever you have to break it down so they
yeah,
know what their tasks are. Boom, 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 boom. And in a job description, as you said, clarify every single thing. So it's not like I don't know what that means. I don't know what my job is. Sometimes you give people a title, but they don't know. They just guess what the tasks are going to be within the title. Be specific, again, like smart objectives. We use that in the business concept. Use it
hmm,
also in terms of assignments and assigning the task. And they train them on all these things. Now, if you train them to do it correctly, they will do it correctly. And then you know that that's running. And then you go to the next one. And then you maybe train someone that will do the training for you. And that changes the dynamic, because now you can
yeah,
multiply yourself in other folks, as opposed to you doing the work, 5 times. You can just do it once and other people do it, the rest of the time. Makes it easier. And then now you can focus on growth and multiplying your assets and your empire, which in this case you were able to do through financial acquisition and other things and partnerships. So
yes,
so so now that's a big question.
yeah,
Finding a partner
yeah,
in business other than your wife,
yeah,
you know,
yes,
it's not always easy. Now again, you
no,
transit it with a strange person or entity,
hmm,
and now you have to. I mean, sometimes people can argue about colors of logo. It happened to me. I can tell
oh
you that.
yeah, yeah,
People can just because everybody's got an opinion, everybody
hmm,
wants to have a decision, piece of it. So it's very
yeah,
difficult to actually work with somebody else as a partner,
definitely,
because now ideas can get mashed up. So how did you handle all that?
yeah. Well, the analogy that I always used with our physical therapists who joined Breakthrough as partners was a marriage analogy. So similar, fortunately, Jody and I, we were, married. So that is a type of partnership. So being in business, you could look at it as an extension to that. But other people, we wanted to get to know them for 2 years. And I challenged everyone on the team. I let everyone know that we had a partnership track, which was very unusual in physical therapy. And it really helped attract and retain the best and brightest. And especially when our first partner joined, other people saw it as, wow, it is possible. And we actually this is probably a little bit too much detail, but I'm a big believer in a buy-in or a down payment and deposit, so people really have some skin in the game. But we did owner financing for our people, so we made it doable for them. So once they actually became a partner, as long as we continued to grow, their equity position, their percentage of ownership would pay their loan back and their taxes, and they would have money in their pocket, profit beyond that, as long as we hit our projections. We did like 7-year pro formas for our people considering partnership. So we really wanted to work in the trenches, because when you have those, challenging times, stressful times, that's when you really learn the true, character of people and their heart and soul, and whether you guys are going to work well together. Um, the good times are easy, but the bad times, it all becomes revealed. So, yeah, that was our test. Work side by side in the trenches for a couple of years, and I challenged everybody to act like a partner along the way, which was actually hard. It was a very difficult challenge, but we had our people rise to that. And that meant just being frugal, treating it like, money was your own money. And it was fun to see. People really stepped up and blossomed.
Well, that's a great model right there. I mean, and by the way, that model has been applied and successful in other areas. I mean, we hear law firms, right? You
Yeah,
become a partner and so on and so forth. That's very common. But there's a lot of business models that actually have that, where you come in, you buy a piece of the pie, you become part of it, and then eventually you can own your own, you know, franchise concept or your own piece of the company. And it could be very attractive to your point, to talent, and because now they know that there's not a dead end job. This is like
yeah,
something I can own, and I can become my
yeah,
own, I guess, entrepreneur here. So you change the
totally.
dynamics, but you gave them an opportunity to kind of operate side by side, and you vet them out at the same time. But you're right. It's not like, hey, let's do this, and there's nothing. They had to buy into the concept physically,
Yeah.
and so
Yes,
that financially, and that's the other thing. That keyword you said, skin in the game. I mean,
yeah,
that's a big deal. I mean, folks. I mean, sometimes think about it. If you're not putting money in anything, it's not really going to be as attractive to you, because now you have nothing to lose. When you put some money, I mean, think about it. That's what banks want you to put a deposit
totally.
on a house, and they want the more from you than the least, right? Because the more you
Yeah.
put in, the more you have something to lose. And so that concept works in a lot of areas, and it works in business. So now you transited, you multiplied this, but then you talked about you went bigger than that in 21, where you reach out to some other, you know, I guess entities or financial institutions. So how did that work?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, my original plan, Jody and I's original plan and vision was to stay independent. And when we had 3 partners, and after about a year in 2018, when one of our partners took over the CEO hat, um, he did fine. He did well. And after about a year or so, he said that he wanted to be the majority partner. And I said, beautiful. Let's map this out over the next 5 or 6 years while our youngest finishes high school, and you'll be the majority owner. And Jody and I may not even be local in this geography. And, not that we necessarily have to go to zero, but, we would be, lower partners for sure. And, the other existing partners could, buy
Oversight
more
of
if
that.
they want
Yeah.
to. And then new partners could still. And this would be pretty, rare and special. Even, it's definitely some law firms and medical firms are independent, although there's been a lot of consolidation, which leads me to the next thing. So, especially in 2021, there was a lot of capital in the market for investing with, what the government did. There was private equity just needed, great little businesses to invest in and do their thing, which is to provide resources and capital. And these are, very skilled people. So they approached us. We weren't looking to sell. So this is what I recommend everyone listening. Know the value of your business, whatever, no matter what industry you're in, know the formulas, and, you know, with caution, definitely proceed. When, if you create a good business, people will approach you. Be careful, meet in person or on the phone. What I'd recommend is just sort of like a little tactic or hack. Just ask by email, like how they would value your business. So that. Because for us in 2004, it was like 3 to 5 times EBITDA, or 1.0 to 1.1 times revenue, which was never really used. It was the EBITDA or profit. And then over time, people would give me, 4 to 6. Oh, okay, good. And then, even though we weren't looking, as I said, in 2021, private equity, all of a sudden is we sat down with them because our CEO partner, wanted Jody and I to, and said, this is a really good group. They're really talented. I think we should sit down with them. I think we should share financials. I said, okay, there's only the second time in our history. I guess at that time it was, 14, 15 years in business. And I said, tell them to come with something specific so we don't go down a rabbit hole of resources. And they did. And they made ridiculous offer, like a 10x multiple and just lots of little perks, um, including me coaching the parent company, the CEO and the regional directors. So we partnered with that bigger company. Um, it wasn't the original plan of staying independent, but what I like to say, it's kind of first world problems, right? Being made a ridiculous offer when you're not looking to sell. So that's how that
Well,
happened.
well, thank you. But that's
Yeah.
also a big deal right there because
Yeah.
plans do change.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that if you get into a business, know that what you're expecting today may not be exactly what's going to happen in 10 years and 20 years. Now you
Sure.
have a vision
Yeah.
and you
Hmm.
work towards the vision, but that
Yeah.
shifts based on dynamics and
Yeah.
circumstances and opportunities will come up and you'll have to
Right.
adjust accordingly. So you got to be
Hmm.
flexible in terms of what comes your way. I mean, at the end of the day, what is the main thing? If you can still be financially, fit,
Yes.
literally, because you structure everything in a way that even when you actually scaling down, you're still cashing out a good amount.
Yeah.
That's supporting your, and in terms of financials.
And to be
Also,
specific, yeah, for everyone listening, if you, with your businesses, as you grow them, you can, if you have a really healthy business, health being a key word today, you can get an upfront lump sum payment. And be careful not to get, you can get guaranteed payments. If any part of it is delayed, it doesn't have to be what they call an earnout. It can be guaranteed as well. So yeah, so really structure it to your, best interest, including tax strategy. So, you probably really need to grow a business to have opportunities for some of the bigger, tax strategy vehicles like estates, over $10 million pre-tax to have some of them. So yeah, just a few pearls that I learned along the way.
well, again, I mean, but these are this is strategy right now, and you've established it. You've shown success at it. I mean, you're still doing it, and again, you're taking on the road to teach other people now in your business. So now you really pretty much structure all that, you and your wife, and now you enjoy the a little bit more freedom, and you're doing a lot more
Yes.
coaching. So
Yes.
so so how was that transition? Because I mean, isn't that's the ideal scenario for everyone watching and listening? Like what I think that's what everybody wants in life is that the
Yeah.
ability to be financially set where you can do the things you want with the people you want at the time that you want. And then now all your schedules can be a lot more better manageable, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's like Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi came out several years ago already with like the knowledge broker blueprint. And I love this movement. There's so many people, right? You may be a piano coach. And now instead of just teaching piano, you can teach other people how to start a piano coaching business. So to use what's in your head, and you don't necessarily need a, brick and mortar anymore. And you can, teach all over the world and just use your brain. So there, it's very attractive, right? Because you can have geographic freedom and more lifestyle freedom and certainly financial freedom. However, it's not easy. Everyone's trying to be a consultant and a coach, and people gravitate towards the Tony Robbins and the Ben Hardys and the Dean Graziosis and the, the big names. So you really have to be passionate. And I've been lucky enough to be 1000% in love with, being a physical therapist and a personal trainer and now a coach for entrepreneurs. And I'm 6 years into it now, and it's all coming together. I'm working with many successful entrepreneurs, mostly started entrepreneurs. I've got a growing group of financial planners and healthcare practitioners, and many are multimillionaires and have financial freedom. So it's a lot of fun, and I have a lot of traction. But definitely stay committed and stay the course because I chose a hard path. I didn't immediately want to coach physical therapy where I had the most credibility because I didn't want to compete with breakthrough in myself. And I don't, you could still look at that as being the right or wrong move, but I definitely chose a harder path. And so if you love helping other people in whatever area of expertise is, stick with it because you can do it. You know, it wasn't easy for me, and now I'm 6+ years in, but it's all coming together so nicely, and I'm really you know honored and humbled and just pleased, so much fulfillment to have some of these freedoms that you mentioned.
We also, I think you're learning as well by
Yeah.
doing this, because that's another
Oh
piece
yeah.
that you always get, because you're talking to top entrepreneurs, and they
Yeah.
have different things they need. And that's the other thing, like, it's funny because you said these are like already successful folks, yet they still have coaches. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, like when you think about it, like the people that are making it, they just don't say I'm making it, I'm good, I don't need any help. They still can seek additional, you know I guess, flavor, because you bring in a new perspective to them. It can change the way they do things, and maybe it can amplify what they're already doing. Because when we get caught into things, we get caught into things. We're not seeing the same. You need fresh, eyesight. You need a fresh look at what you do and how you do it. And sometimes you need that extra pair of eyes to tell you, like, well, maybe you can do this. And I'm talking about real, training and coaching here, and opinion, not just negative opinion, or like, I just don't like the way you do it. you know, you're talking from expertise, and it's not criticizing, it's really, supporting, helping,
Yes.
assisting. So it's a different way of things. But really, again, for people out there, coaching is for everyone, folks. Whether you're novice or you're an expert, we can all use some additional help. And that includes me, that includes everybody that is,
Yep. And
in any
me,
given.
I just in November, I had a couple years where I realized I didn't have a coach. In 2018, I tried to hire one of the biggest people I emulate. He wrote the forward of my book, John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast. And I wish I would, in hindsight, I wish I would have persevered and just found a way to work with him. But he made a recommendation, and I went with his recommendation, and they were amazing. But there was a period of time where I didn't have a coach for probably 4 years. And just in November, I resumed Coaches Need Coaches, and when really we have 10x visions and big visions, just like you're mentioning, we have blind spots and we need that support and accountability. And really the way I look at it with people that I work with is their success is my success. So it's the same on whatever side of it you're on.
That's a positive note for people
Yeah.
that are watching and listening, because again, I love what you said. Their success is your success. That's actually true for everything that we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are our own enemy, because we feel that if I help them succeed, they're going to succeed. But their success is yours, because
Yes.
you are behind it. So don't, take the credit for it, no matter what it is.
Let them
And
spread their wings. And,
exactly.
it's not a bad, that was like a physical therapy mantra that, when people graduate, that's actually a good thing, right? We don't necessarily, some professions like to keep people a little more dependent, but yeah, I'm in the same camp.
But that's a big deal, right? Folks,
Yeah.
I again, as it's one of the key things for leadership, right? A true leader makes leaders.
Yes.
Okay, and someone that is not a leader will actually stop people, prevent them from going or becoming better, because there's always the fear that they're going to compete against you or me.
Right.
You know, that's not how it is. I'm not worried about the people that I train and coach to become better. Let them
Yeah.
be, as you said, spread those wings, be better. I don't care. And there's no, that they will always, look up to you no matter what. Even sometimes they can be even higher level than you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter,
Absolutely.
folks.
Yeah.
You already did the job. That's it. Now could you have done more? That's up to you. You determine how far you'll go and where you went. But that's okay for other people to fly. I mean, it's like parents, right? You want your kids to grow and just do better.
1000%.
Same concept here. I mean, you help
Yes.
someone. That's like, it's not a child, but it's
Yeah.
like it's the same
And
concept.
just like children, someone said to me who was very wise, it's actually not your children that you can judge how great of a job parents did, but look at their children's children, right? Their grandchildren, because again, it's kind of like you, right? A great leader is going to create leaders who create leaders, and it just becomes exponential. So
It's a
it's the
legacy. Now,
same. Yeah.
a good example that never fails is martial arts.
Yeah.
I mean, we have Sanchez and she has and professors, but they all learn from professors that learn from professors,
Right.
and that legacy remains for centuries. I mean, these arts are so ancient, and we are learning, over and over. I've been in martial arts, so I can
Okay.
tell you, I've learned from people, and they learn from, I teach some, and and so on and so forth. But it's been, a historical event, and it's not like no professor's like, we're not going to teach you stuff. I mean, we hear the stories about Bruce Lee when first the kung fu came to the States, and there was a lot of politics about not teaching non-Chinese and stuff. But that was like more political, But in general, in the arts, people are learning, the arts from advanced people so they can teach. Knowledge is made to be given, not to be kept. Otherwise, we'll be living in we're still trying to figure out how to put fire together. I mean,
Hmm.
it's that kind of thing. So I love the concept, and I think for our audiences, again, just open your eyes and you're really just your horizons. I mean, it is the way to go. There's actually a satisfaction level for that. You're helping people, and by the way, it's not free. You're making money out of this stuff too. So why not? Like, it's very easy. I can help myself by helping others. And that's
Yes.
actually true for everyone.
Yeah. The more you help other people get what they want in life, the more you'll get exactly what you want in life, right?
And if you're good, your
Yeah.
your name just spreads more and more. More
Yeah.
referrals, more, products, more resources, and more success. That's like everybody's, dream come true kind of concept, right? So
For
so now
sure.
the book. You wrote the
Yeah.
book as
Hmm.
I guess a summary of all the things that you've done.
Yes.
And what are some of the maybe the critics or criticisms that you've determined over the work that entrepreneurs make? Like things that pitfalls that we
Oh,
as entrepreneurs sometimes fall in, or mistakes we make.
oh, okay. Yeah. Where do we begin? So many good ones. I mentioned that in regards to health, I think, sleep is usually compromised too quickly and too significantly. Yeah, a friend of mine who, you know, very Wall Street background and has his own, company now for 10 years. And, he was $1 million a year earner, in Wall Street, but he's only getting 5 to 6 hours sleep a night. And, the research really boiled it down. When I read Matt Walker's book, a neuroscientist totally focused on sleep, all the magic happens between 7 and 9 hours. And a few years ago, I remember going to a Mr. Wonderful event in Trenton, New Jersey. And I was talking to a young entrepreneur. She was a franchisee. She had like 20 locations. She was young. I mean, 25, 30. And she was like jumping in on Mr. Wonderful's real estate deal. And I was like, how are you going to have time to do that? She's like, I'll sleep less. And I was like, how much sleep are you getting now? And she's like, 5 hours. I mean, sleep is definitely, it'll catch up to you if you really abuse it. I mean, for the guys listening, right? I mean, the research is actually very clear. If you sleep less than 6 hours, like 5 hours, you are going to be like a decade older, based on your hormones. And I just actually came across a study this week. Even 1 week of less sleep, like an hour and a half less sleep. So I think maybe like 5 hours of sleep, and testosterone will drop 15% in men, and it's actually similar in women, with hormone problems. So sleep is critical and definitely a big pitfall.
Mm.
But even deeper than that, I feel like knowing our priorities. Because for me, one thing that we didn't really talk about today, I touched on strategy. I was lucky enough to have a mentor that taught me a traditional business planning process. And then when I started working with entrepreneurs, I was spending 80, 120, 160 hours on this and more. And it was massive document for Denali Consulting. I had a 50-page business plan in 2018 when I started. But after it took me 2 full years to realize I needed to boil it down for the average entrepreneur. And the one thing that I actually added though was that why. So I feel like most people, if you really ask them, their reason, their why, their purpose, they don't necessarily know it off the bat. And if they do know it, they're not necessarily thinking through that lens. So, really doing some introspective work, because it's just very easy to just stay on the hamster wheel. So those would be a couple top of mind pitfalls.
Well, that
Um,
that that's quite a bit. But
yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, listen. I mean, we they need to read the book. We can't give it all, right? But so Denali Consultant is the actual
Yep.
group that you've created. That's your
Yes.
consulting business.
Correct.
All right. So we'll have the link for that. Now people can sign up for this. Is there a particular level that you need to have to join, or is it open to all entrepreneurs, startups, and so on and so forth?
Yeah. I especially love to serve entrepreneurs that have, six figure businesses that really want to hit seven figures, which it matches, the book title, similar to entrepreneurs you mentioned earlier. Not many, you know, certainly not all survive. And unfortunately, 96% of small businesses fail within 10 years. And it's actually the same number for businesses that hit seven figure mark in revenue. It's about, only about 4%. So I really love, entrepreneurs that are, multiple six figures and just trying to figure out how they can get to that next mark and maybe even go to eight figures, and who are maybe seeing some of these early warning signs. They're just pushing outside of their comfort zone, feeling a little bit overwhelmed, maybe some of those early burnout signs. Um, I help plenty of, startups, happy to help startups as well. I've got a new or mastermind, depending on when this comes out, that is going to be, more community focused, like group focused, and the magic is actually in the community. So, we'll meet as a community. So people could think about that. And certainly I help people, with private coaching as well. So, and I mentioned earlier, by niches, which is not the way I approached it. But especially like helping healthcare niches and physical therapists, I'm serving more physical therapists now, more recently, and that, physicians, functional medicine doctors, and financial planners. For whatever reason, I really, love serving financial planners as well. Um, so,
That's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
that's quite a bit. Well, so you the mastermind is coming up soon.
yeah. Right now I'm in like the beta version. So by the time this goes live, it'll be like fully established. Yes.
Well, so this is live next week. So
Okay, good.
okay,
And what it's
so
called is literally, here's my like kind of commitment and promise. I'm having fun with this. So I want entrepreneurs, as I mentioned, to get paid for the roles they have. So I'm calling it double your take home, which will also double your valuation, which is what we talked about, right? Because the more, profit or EBITDA you have, then that'll actually increase the value of your business. And really, a friend of mine just said this last week. He's like, Lance, you know, maybe you should talk about their life and lifestyle and health as well. So double your take home, double your valuation, 10x your life is like my working, title. And that's actually within 6 months. I want to help entrepreneurs do that, create that outcome, because so many entrepreneurs are just, I'm talking to somebody who's got a seven figure business in Philadelphia who gets paid 19,000 a year right now. He can't even make his rent payments. It's pretty horrendous with a seven figure, two location business.
but that's a big thing. People see
Yeah.
there's a mistake between what your business brings and what you're actually
Yeah.
taking home. Because I think one of the
Yeah.
rules in the business, and that's actually for everybody, and I've learned this, myself through the opportunities, and I've been in on and off businesses myself, is that you got to pay yourself first,
Yes.
because if you don't make the money to sustain your bills, you're not going to be able to focus on the business. And yes, they can generate enough revenue, but it's only, because you have inventory, you have overhead, you have all the stuff. So you're basically
Yeah.
paying the bills to pay, making money to pay the bills of the business, but you're not making anything for you. And so not only you need to have a salary, but you also have to manage yourself to get some profits at the end of the day, or dividends, or
Yes.
whatever it is. I think that's a big problem. I think that a lot of people experience
Yeah.
because,
Cash flow,
oh,
cash
yeah,
flow, and like paying yourself first is a critical problem.
but I think that's what I've listened to quite a few shows and discussions about that with experts.
Yeah.
That's one of the rules. You got to make sure that you're getting paid.
Yeah.
I mean, even for personal, for taxes purposes and stuff, that's your income. That's a deduction.
Hmm.
There's all stuff. You and your wife or your partners, you need to have salaries from the business. That's expensive. So there's certain things that can. Now that's your job. You teaching those tricks, to people to make sure that they happen. But it is a big deal because, as you said, what's the point of having? Well, I have a 7 million, $7 million business, but
Yeah.
I'm making no money. I mean, or I'm making, I don't know, $700,000, a month, and I'm not making money.
Yeah.
What it doesn't even end up like you tell someone, "Oh, I got a big business." Like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
you know, what is the bottom line, right? So it's very difficult, when it comes to the business world. There's a lot of tricks, and that's why we need experts. So Lance, I mean, we've exceeded our hour, easily. We had some fun. Now you also do TV. Now I mentioned that earlier. What kind of program did that you have?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. And for everyone listening, be sure to like and follow Hurricane. I mean, he delivers so much value. Um, so I've had a TV show. I'm in my second year in RVN TV Studios. Shout out to them in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Keith and Lori Reynolds, called Moving Mountains, where I love to feature people doing super heroic things in life and or business. So, since we're both here in New Jersey, we're going to get you down sometime.
Oops, I'm in the hook. And I can't even write it. You put this live on me now.
Yes,
Listen, it's all good. I mean, if I can share value, that's the whole idea. So,
for
I mean,
sure.
but that's great work. I mean, the idea that you are bringing value to people so you can share, other people's successes
Yeah,
and what they have to share. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody has something. And, folks, you're watching and listening, you don't have to be a podcaster. You don't have to be a talk show host. You don't have to be a business person, but you have value. Stuff that can be valuable to other people. The thing sometimes we hold on to information we have that we can share with others and they can benefit from it. And it could be a little thing, so it doesn't have to be huge, stuff, but we all have something to learn and to teach. So go for it, folks, but that's great work, man. So now where can they watch that? Your programming.
yeah. Probably the simplest place that I'll say is RVN Television and / Moving Mountains, where it's almost like Netflix style. It's all there, but they're doing things with Amazon and Hulu, and you could figure out a way to find it there. But if you go there, you'll find our show, Moving Mountains, and lots of other great shows to check out as well.
So I'll make sure that we'll link it up so people can
Okay,
can check it out. All
that'd be
right.
awesome
No worries. Yeah, listen, like I said, it's value, right? I mean, we'll have more of you. You already did the work, so might as well just share more, right? All
for sure.
right. Well, so Lance,
Yeah.
what are some of just final words that you want to share with our audiences before we close our show today?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for having me. Everyone, be sure to follow Hurricane, doing amazing stuff, delivering so much value and great, incredible, gracious host. Appreciate you so much. Some of the biggest messages I would like to relay just to, some final thoughts. There's definitely a mantra that you hear from a lot of thought leaders about just taking action. I like to actually improve that and fine tune it a little bit and recommend taking strategic action. We can't be at the mountaintop 100% of the time, but we can't be 0% of the time. If we run straight down into the trenches and fight and take on, the heart of the enemy's army, we'll probably lose. So it only probably has to be about 10% of the time for your year, your month, your week, and your day, but take some time to make sure you're doing the rightest things, right? Doing your big boulders, your needle movers. And even in Tim Ferriss's words, right? There may be some small reversible damage. It's going to be hard to keep your blinders on and turn off your technology, but take strategic action and get the most important things done because that will compound. And know take some time for yourself as part of that strategic work to really do some thought exercises and get deep within your heart and soul so that you know what's most important to you. Because, as we've talked about today, you could build a successful business and have financial freedom, but, people all ages and all backgrounds, just yesterday I was speaking to someone in their 30s who just got referred to an oncologist, may have, gallbladder cancer. Do what's in your control because we do know from the research, and you'll see it in my book that you know longevity and quality of life, the old nature nurture battle,
Mm.
it's actually more nurture than nature. We can't blame it on our parents. Our lifestyle is the biggest biggest needle mover, the biggest lever. So, take control of your lifestyle. Take ownership. It's on us to do better with the sleep and make some time for mental health and mindset work and physical, exercise and nutrition, all the things we've been talking about today. And yeah, have a great life. Build the life of your dreams. It can be done. It's a fun pursuit. Do what you love. And yeah, anybody who needs any help, just reach out.
Well, thank you, Doctor. It's true honor, and I'm listen. I'm privileged to always be the first one getting that nice little energy from you, and getting all those insights, before it goes on the air. But really, it is powerful stuff, and it is really good to hear these things because again, it's amazing. It's contagious. The more you hear these things, the more you become positive, the more you actually are aware. And you have to continuously do that, folks. So that's all there is. So that being said, we can literally go for another hour. I know Doctor needs to, to go right now, but it was a true, fun hour here. Great exchange. Thank you, Dr. Lance Knaub, for being with us today. It was fun. Folks, I think this is it. We'll be talking soon. Another day, another show, another guest. Bye for now.